Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Vish-O-Pedia. Today I have a guest with me, Curtis.
Hi YouTube.
So we're gonna have a question and answer session in this video where I'm gonna ask you questions and he's gonna answer. Now this session will give a lot of insight about if you are planning to move here to Australia from your country, from a perspective of as an immigrant. You will find out what challenges you have to see, what things you have to prepare mentally, physically and everything financially. So let's start the topic of today. So Curtis, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Pleasure to be here.
Okay, so in this session I want you to explain where you come from, what's your background, how long you've been here. So if we start with your introduction, a little bit of introduction, who you are, where you come from.
Okay, so I've been in Australia for 6 years. I'm originally from England, if you can't tell by the accent. Grew up mainly in the south of England, grew up mainly in a little town called Norwich, which is in a county called Norfolk, kind of just over there, you know, insert map here sort of thing. But yes, so yeah, that's basically where I come from.
So what's your educational background? What made you think that you have to come to Australia? England is a very good place, right?
Yeah, look, England definitely isn't a bad place to live. You could definitely do a lot worse than England, like living in America, for example.
Are you saying America's bad? Come on, man.
Hey, we have a thing called universal health care.
True.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's like any country, right? There are good things and bad things. So one of the great things about England is the universal health care. And I think sort of, from my point of view, there are some cultural things I miss about England. I think what you find, I don't know if you found this when you moved over here to Australia, is it's the very little cultural things, a lot of the pop cultural things actually, you miss when you move.
What do you mean, pop culture? Pop it in your mouth and go to heaven?
Just things such as, you know, food, TV, but also there's a certain there's a certain sort of comfort. Because one of the things which I found when I moved to Australia was I didn't know which shop to go to buy what I needed. Mm-hmm. And it was terribly inconvenient.
So yeah. What made you think that, it's time for me to move from England to Australia? Is it because Australia is a better place to be compared to England, or is it something else you...
Look, Australia obviously isn't for everyone. But I think I prefer the culture in Australia slightly more to England. Feel as though, and I'm not trying to disrespect English people here, but Australians are very open, warm and friendly and very relaxed. And that's sort of quite nice to be around. I found that for me there are just simply more opportunities in Australia. Because like England's a very small country, really. It's smaller than WA. So England has a larger population than Australia in a space which is smaller than WA. So you could say that it's a lot more competitive. So in Australia, I just simply have more opportunities because there's less of that competitiveness.
So that's what made your mind that, because Australia has more opportunity than compared to England.
Well, I guess I'm in the privileged position of not making a decision purely on the economic factors. I did it basically where I felt happier. Okay. And I felt happier in Australia with the environment and the people. But I'm very much aware that the decision to move to Australia for many people is economical because they're struggling where they come from back home. See, wages are very good in Australia comparatively to England as well. That's another thing. Australia, I think, has one of the highest minimum wages in the world. Don't quote me on that, and you can't quote me on that for your homework. But the wages here are very, very good, and they're better than they are in the UK. So that's a bonus.
And then how's the
big
education
bonus.
system over there? Do you have like HEX system like how we have here?
Yep. We have the HEX system.
So those who don't know the HEX system, it means that it's like a loan but without interest. So if you're going to the university, you can study there based on HEX system, and then you can repay it when you get a job. So exactly the same model?
Exactly, that's exactly the same model. We have colleges, which is the Australian version of TAFE. I think we possibly have more universities than
British
Australia.
education is quite intense as well, isn't it? Like, I think the reputation is quite higher than
The reputation, certainly for some of the universities, such as Oxford and Cambridge, but that's a different story altogether. That doesn't really represent the mainstay of British higher education, really.
Okay.
Not really. Look, I would say your average British university is very similar to your average Australian university, because they're both been privatised, right?
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
both are
sure.
privatised systems, and I think university in both countries have sort of lowered their standards, you could say, but you do have more universities to choose from, so.
Okay. And how is weather? Obviously, it's extreme in England, isn't it?
The weather is 100 times better
In Australia, isn't it?
in Australia.
Yeah, because in weather in UK is so extreme that it goes minus, right?
I wouldn't say it's extreme.
But dude, come on.
It's not like we're
most of
living
the time it's cold over there, right?
Yeah, but it's not extreme. It's not extreme. It's not like it's not like we're living in Russia or anything.
But compared to Australian weather, would you call it extreme?
It rains a lot more than Australia. I mean, you've got bushfires over here.
Dude, bushfire is not a climate, right?
Well, yeah. Okay, good point. But didn't we have like a tornado warning or something?
Tornado is something else. I'm saying, we have winter here, and I can literally walk in my t-shirt.
Sure.
Can you walk in t-shirt if it's winter then in UK?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So that's what I'm saying. That means it's really you have to cover yourself up.
Yeah, I think a part of it is climatization.
And then
as well.
you got a lot of snowfall.
Yeah, we do have snow, but you get snow in some parts of Australia.
Not in Perth, right?
Not in Perth.
Not in Perth, mate.
Definitely not. No, you have to go up to the mountains for that one.
So when you arrived here in Australia, what were the challenges you faced?
Well, as I mentioned with shops, it feels like such a first world problem saying, oh no, the challenge I faced when I went to a new country was the shops were different. Sounds terribly first world.
No, if you ask someone who came from a developing country, they'll be like, oh, there was a cultural shock. The way we apply for a job back in our country is totally different here. The entire format of resume and the documentation, even the presentation is totally different to what we are used to. Right, the way we meet people. Right, back in India, we don't take our elders' name. It's like out of respect that we give them a title like uncle and auntie or something. We don't call them by their name. We go to university, we call them sir and madam. Whereas here, you just call professor, his name, hey Peter, what's up, man? You know?
Exactly.
So it's a big change for a developing country people who come here. They find it hard to adopt to the cultural change. Like people who have never traveled before, like in developing, like for example in India, right? When they come here, they find it hard to be a part of a society. So what they do is they try to find their own comfort. They'll find more Indian people. They want to work with Indian. They want to go out in Indian restaurant. They want to sit with Indians. and that's why they are not able to integrate with the Western society.
Yeah, and I think it's such a shame to move so far away from your home and not mix
I know.
with the people that live in that country.
This is what I always tell people, that if you are coming from a country, like for example, when I came here, I didn't came here directly. I worked on a ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I met a lot of different people. I learned different cultures. I learned a different way of how they live. Japanese, Taiwanese, Hong Kong. So Australians, Kiwis, and I met so many different people, lived with them, so it was easier for me to mix, to integrate.
Yeah.
And when I came here, I didn't live with Indians, I lived with Australians. So in that way, I'm not talking in my own language.
Yeah.
I'm talking in English all the time. Plus, I'm learning the way they are doing. Right, what they do, how the culture is, how they mingle, how they get together. So it's not a hard thing for me to just go and meet someone randomly and I can be very comfortable with them. Whereas a lot of Indians who come here from India directly, they find it hard to mix with local Australian people, and because they are not mixed with them, as a result, they are not able to integrate in the society. Yeah. And then they start complaining that, people here, they are not, friendly. Sometimes they say they are not friendly, they're not they're this, and so many, So, and I tell them that it's not these people who are not able to mix with you, it's you are not able to mix with them. Because when you move, if I'll go to Japan, and I said that these people are not talking in Hindi, it is so rude. No, I went in their country, so I have to speak their language. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and this is the thing coming from a background of a native. I would call myself as a native background, because in India we got a very rich history, and we are. You can go. I can tell my grandfather name and where they lived and everything. My dad knows his great grandfather name, and so we know the entire tree. We don't have to go on internet and find who was where I came from. So if I'll ask my dad where did my surname or our thing originated, he will tell me just like that, right? Because it's the way the entire Indian society was developed. We had certain values, we had certain principles. Now we are losing it because as we are mixing with the Western society and we're losing it. But
well, I'm glad you mentioned values. Actually, I mean it's very easy to sit here as someone from a developed country who has many opportunities to say, well, don't move for economic reasons, but I think the fact of the matter is when you do move countries, you enter into a political community.
For sure.
You enter into values, and whether you like it or not, you will be within those values, and your children will have those values. So I think before you come to Australia, find out what those values are. And embrace them, and try to find out the history of, because these values don't come from nowhere. They come from within history, and they come from philosophy as well. So research a bit of Western European English history and philosophy, and then learn how these things came to be.
It becomes very easier. You see, a lot of Australian slangs, right? So if you meet someone and say, hey, how you doing? Howdy, all that kind of stuff. For a totally new person, because back in India we say every word. Here, people short every word, right? Even the entire sentence goes in just one word, right? So some people, they go blank. Oh, what did he just said? Slangs. And it's really good to actually do some research that what kind of slangs are used in this country or that country. It makes it much easier for you to be a part of a community when you start talking in their way of like here everyone greets and smile.
Yeah, yeah.
In the morning, you see someone, you say, hey, good morning, and then you smile. Which is one of the best thing I've ever noticed. Instead of just walking with your long face,
And that's
you
the
meet
thing.
people and you smile.
But
And you say, good morning.
that doesn't come out of nowhere. You know, Australia is well known to have a culture of not mateship and not being very hierarchical, and that's because, in theory, the Western world has the philosophy that we're all human beings. We all have inherently the same values, and we're all equal.
Yep.
And not all societies are like that. Some societies are very hierarchical. Some societies are very, very much, well, you're better than me, so we communicate in this way. But to behave like that in Western societies is quite ugly, and it gets a little bit more complicated than that. For example, British is a little bit more classist than Australia is, but by and large, our main goal as Western is to try to treat each other as human beings and to respect our humanity.
That's really nice. So let's conclude this session here. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll bring another session because Curtis has a background of it's a philosophical background, right? So we'll talk about some philosophy about life and other things.
That might be fun.
So stay tuned, keep watching our video, and have a good day.